Warhammer 40,000 Chaos Gate Daemonhunters is very much XCOM with Space Marines. Gears Tactics is a good point of comparison, but I found Daemonhunters even more traditional at times, to the point it was easy to spot familiar systems operating beneath the grim-dark veneer. That said, it still offers impressive production values for an indie title, with a suitably epic narrative-driven campaign and an aggressive gameplay loop that's perfect for those who prefer shorter, tougher missions, with plenty of decision-making in between. It also plays great on a gamepad, and I'm guessing it was just the small team size that prohibited a simultaneous console launch. Just don't expect it to change your mind about the genre, even if you love the IP. A deceptively easy, tutorial-heavy prologue encapsulates the ridiculous Warhammer 40,000 setting, before thrusting you into the role of a freshly promoted commander of a Grey Knights chapter of the Adeptus Astartes, serving the God Emperor and the Imperium of Man, assisting an Inquisitor from the Ordo Malleus in hunting down demons and heretics that serve the Chaos Gods. If that long sentence meant little to you, you might find Daemonhunters' strong narrative more intrusive than entertaining, as it leans heavily into established lore, features a surprising amount of well-directed cutscenes, and has plenty of text-heavy conversations with your crew that flesh out the state of the universe and the factions within. That said, even if you're familiar with the IP, it's not the most novel or surprising story, something that's not really the fault of the developers when the entire Black Library now survives by rehashing old ideas with retcons, inconsistencies, predictable archetypes, repetitive battle descriptions, and endless contrivances. To Daemonhunters' credit, it's more narrative-driven than many tactical turn-based games. It sets the stakes high from the get-go, and provides context for several gameplay systems. Your mission performance and crew members you side with during key moments can affect their contribution to shipboard functions, and several encounters even function like choice-driven text adventures. Given this is a future where there is only war among the stars and scheming chaos guards, the Grey Knights chapter is immediately forced back into action despite having lost their commander, several battle brothers, and severely damaged their strike cruiser, the Baleful Edict. As the new commander, you've got to deal with characters like the Adeptus Mechanicus Dominus Lunette, who cares more about the ship than the crew, or the Inquisitor Cartha, who seems content to treat the Grey Knights and local populace as disposable in pursuit of her goals. As you dig deeper into the source of corrupting bloom seeds, you'll uncover plans by Nurgle to invade real space, and an ancient rivalry between a Primarch turned to Chaos and a Grandmaster thought lost in the war. Moving to gameplay, Daemonhunters is traditional but flexible, and feels more balanced around aggressive play. There's a basic 3 action point structure that allows you to move, shoot, and use abilities in any configuration, and you can freely alternate between knights until all the combined action points are spent. You can dash across the map and place a knight in the midst of heretic gunners to trigger attacks of opportunity if they try flee. You can take 3 successive shots or melee strikes to quickly deal with a target. You can set up overlapping Overwatch zones that'll trigger as many times as you have rounds and action points in reserve. Of course, the same applies to your foes and, in addition to that annoying design where they always get the first turn once detected, you'll grow to hate their preference for running to full cover, taking a shot, and then setting up Overwatch. As many firearm-wielding enemies outrange your knights, and a bloom counter ticks up every turn, eventually triggering warp surges, Daemonhunters can feel merciless at first. There are more tutorials after the prologue, but they explain combat scenarios, gameplay modifiers, ship abilities, upgrades, and research in broad strokes, and I often found myself digging into the extensive glossary of key concepts for more details. Much like the XCOM games, Daemonhunters places you on the back foot from the start, and expects you to run an increasingly lethal treadmill to maintain pace, with a strong possibility of hitting a wall if you push forward too quickly. Bloom corruption feels inevitable as outbreak clusters are spread too far apart on an expanding sector map. Requisition points to recruit new battle brothers are earned slowly, ensuring you rarely field an uninjured team, while the best ship upgrades and support powers are multiple research levels deep. The bulk of your time may be spent directing your knights in battle, but the longer you play, the more it feels like their level, requisition gear, and research upgrades are what are keeping your forces alive, not your tactical abilities. Each class can branch out from a central cluster of class skills to invest in physical or warp resistance, armor and weapon proficiencies, offensive psychic abilities, or leadership and healing support abilities. Aside from class-specific items, loadouts are flexible and overlap, but you'll want to fill your barracks with a healthy mix of tanks, healers, long-range damage dealers, and crowd control specialists to survive later missions. especially handcrafted story missions that often have you babysitting a key character that needs to survive, or tackling a boss. Working in your favour, Space Marine physiology ensures they can handle multiple wounds so long as they're not outright killed during a mission. Even critical wounds will eventually heal or be mitigated with augmetic parts, though accumulate too many and the best you can hope for is to recover their gene seed to claim further requisition points for new recruits and gear after missions, or during increasingly tense reports to the chapter's Grand Master. This tiered gear feels essential, and includes situational melee or ranged weapons, classic power armor and tank-like Terminator armor, all of which can be improved with stat-boosting mods. On top of that, you have accessories that range from limited-use grenade variants to trophies that provide passive buffs, and you can extensively customize your favorite Battle Brothers outfit if you want. To further improve your tactical options in battle and restore the Baleful Edict to full functionality, you'll also need to keep on top of ship upgrades and research, which require servitors and bloom seeds respectively, and anywhere from a few days to over a month to complete. It's a lot to keep on top of, but if you can survive a few rough hours by rotating your squad, completing a few optional Valiant Deeds tasks, and simply rushing the mission objective when outnumbered, your knights will eventually become a formidable and resilient force against corrupted heretics, lesser and greater demons, and particularly tough Plague Marines. Wrapping up, I'll assume a challenge is what you were looking for if Warhammer 40,000 Chaos Gate Daemonhunters was on your radar. So the biggest question is, how does it compare to the console ports of XCOM Enemy Within, Warhammer 40,000 Mechanicus, or Gears Tactics? The answer is near perfect, and I never found myself fighting the controls or struggling to navigate menus. Yes, the lack of a mouse cursor and keyboard shortcuts slows you down, but really impacts the outcome as you can take each turn at your own pace. You always confirm movement waypoints or abilities, and you can save and reload at any point if things go horribly wrong. I'll admit I've been forever spoiled by Mutant Year Zero Road to Eden's free movement out of combat and stealth takedown mechanics, but Daemonhunters still offers immensely satisfying battles once you've got over that initial difficulty hump, and the turn-based combat and progression systems gel. If you've got this far, please consider giving the video a like and maybe subscribing to our channel as it helps us grow.